Hello and welcome to the Watch Thief process video. Hurrah! Yes, it's been a long time since I've done one of these. In my first process video, I talked about how I largely write my story in pen first. It takes either two forms. It's early drafts, um, which I've just found. That's Casement and Trevich's meeting in jail. Um, and I work these up alongside early thumbnails. Um, this is the showdown between Trevich and Captain or Admiral Hall, and I generally would work those into a full comic story script. Before taken into the novel route, and that's my starting point as of chapter 1. But my plan back then was a straight adaptation, although my process seems to have changed from week to week. The first problem I had was establishing the story status quo. So I'm going to take this off, it's a bit hot in here. So I'm going to illustrate the problem that I had in establishing the sort of modus operandi of a character by illustrating a bit of Trevich's journey so far. So let's see. Will this work if I put you a bit closer? Yeah, that works. Okay, so we have Trevich beginning his life in Bucharest here. You know what? Down the microphone, my belly and my butt, I don't want you staring at it. It's flattery. Bucharest, and he makes his way to London for the Queen's Jubilee. And then Bristol, in Canada, where he hooks up with, all the way across the North Atlantic, where he hooks up with Reverend McCarter, travels with him, was preaching all the way down Halifax, just not far from New York. And back again. Then he goes back across North Atlantic. This hits maybe he will go back over to Budapest, but actually he's riding the trains in London when he meets Siobhan Rowntree, and Rowntree puts him to work all over Europe here, from Paris and Berlin to Belgium and Switzerland, Vienna, and of course he's back over to Budapest with his family. He's over to York with Rowntree and London with his family again. So he is living in London, and of course there's also some talk that he also visited South America and Asia as well. So Bucharest there to Asia, China, and South America. But these are stories that are largely through Trevich's own telling, and there's very little proof that that actually happened at the moment. So from London and on up the coast a bit to Darlington, well, not the coast, inland. Then he's back over to Bucharest, just beyond Budapest there, and to Romania for his work with the oil fields. But he's largely he's working in London until he's forced to flee via Rotterdam, and then oh no, Rotterdam, of course, is where he attempts to get his secret codes. He's back across the North Atlantic again from London to New York, and he runs afoul just up in Brooklyn. Um, the British get him and take him back across the North Atlantic, and we're into chapter 22, where he might go this way again, he might go back into Europe. So, as you can see, trying to establish one scene, one language, one cast of characters has all been very, very difficult. The European arc went widely off course from my original plan. Um, but I think it was needed. I think it created that substance. Each chapter had like 5 short stories, which allowed to convey that this is the way this book is going to be. This is somebody who doesn't settle down. So, right. So I've been working away, and I've got my little book tower here at the moment. Is Lamp, Self-Made Villain, The Rough Guide to Berlin, Bernard Wasserstein's own work, and of course I've got my lots of little booklets. Well, about 3 or 4. Um, and so I want to, as a way into talking about research, I want to talk a bit about story. And the most interesting piece on story theory was by a guy called Joseph Campbell. The Hero of a Thousand Faces was his book, which explained the hero's journey, the form that many stories takes, which is 20 beats, and you can look at the hero's journey or the monomyth and apply it to Star Wars or the Matrix, and it's a perfect fit. But and that dates back to the 70s, maybe the 50s. I'm around somewhere. Um, a few years ago, Dan Harmon, the creator of Community, and now better known as the creator of Rick and Morty, developed a simplified version of Campbell's monomyth, which he called the Story Circle. And this is it. Let's see if I can get you there. Look at that. Right, okay. Whoa, this way. Right. So, the story circle. Yeah, and it's a circle divided into 8 bits, which begins with the lead character in a zone of comfort, but they need something, and they go to find it, and they enter an unfamiliar situation. Now, this line across the top, Dan has identified as themes of life and consciousness and order, but when this this threshold is crossed, they're dealing with the opposites, with characters dealing with death, unconsciousness, chaos, and they search in this unfamiliar situation for the thing they want, and they learn to adapt to the new environment, and eventually they find and get what they want. However, they take it, they find they have paid an incredible price for it, and then they return home. They return to familiarity, but something has changed. Something has changed with them. And Harlan has tested this a number of times and reckons that this is a way that uh, most stories follow. He actually uses it in crafting Rick and Morty and Community and anything else he works on. So it can be used as smart Alex theory and as a valuable writing tool. I myself have used it on a few occasions, short stories, and um, actually here is my notes from working out the plot from my novel, Axel America and the US election race, available at uh, all really good bookshops, really, really good ones. Um, and this is a chapter, the Axel bot, um, which was coming in quite heavy, and I need to cut down on the chaff and um, find a way to resolve it. It had the chapter had a lot of balls in the air, so I've also used it for um, a few short stories, The Bridged Earth, which might see publication someday, and in tinier writing, um, a Death to the Stone, Die by the Stone. Yeah, that's a pretty hardcore title, that. Okay, so right. Catch my breath, have a little drink of a mystery cola. So, as I've been writing Trebbage and disappearing down the research hole that I mentioned earlier, I began thinking more and more about ways that I was getting around that trap because it's something that it happened over time. I would get into it, I would get blocked in terms of getting the words, the final story on the page. And it was because I was putting in so much research work. But conversely, I needed the research work to uh, get the words down on a page. I need to fly, not just fly by the pants. I need to present a sort of substance. You know, if I'm spending 4 hours living in 1910 Darlington with using Google, I need to come back and I need to tell you what that's like. So I started thinking about there's a theory by I think Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi. I pronounced that wrong. It's called flow, and it's about something that happens to creative people engaging in creative pursuits. If you're playing a computer game, singing a song, playing a sport, even it applies. Of course, because regular people do exercise. Um, so flow is like a straight line, um, and along its axis is the challenge. Um, so you know you'll level up on a computer game and you'll do it just so that there's a bigger. It's harder for you. So you're, but flow is when you're surfing perfectly between challenge and ability, and you're just in the mode state. And of course, the either side of flow is anxiety and boredom, um, which I assume, as my understanding today, that they increase as you get better in a game and you're testing the game's limits and you're breaking it. The more and more if you're doing it for an hour straight or 2 or 3, you may be a bit bored. So flow was my starting point into thinking about this, and then I developed this, which is the research triangle. Andy Luke's research triangle, draft one. Um, let me see if I can talk my way around this thing. So you'll see the story circle squashed into the middle like a big sausage. Um, and there you have flow is at one of the levels. Is it a side angle, and you have your challenge and your difficulty along the edge there. Um, and this is what goes on when you're writing, and can also be applied to the character if that's a story you're telling. Um, so along the end, also you've got foundation, and this is the information that you're going into a story to have. This is your base. Um, now, these sections here are primarily um, uh, what I call symptomatic writing. I don't know if that's a term I'm going to stick with, but symptomatic writing is basically what happens when you're researching and it's working. You're coming up with really good ideas. Um, and you're maybe describing a photo or a video that has clicked off something else in your head that you're going to take in a different direction, but it's still relevant. So yeah, and as we, I mean, this is a foundation, as I said, um, up until, and we've got our lines of reading and writing. And at the peak, this is where we're going. This is a story you see, ideally. So this top peak is increases in necessity along the way. So you could squash a story circle out into a triangle, but or okay, I think I've gone too far there. Um, but basically, you're deciding what these areas are, what sort of size of time and space. Um, but the necessity is up here. It's in the final editing, and you have to research it. It's an automatic research. Your spell checking, your grammar, your names. Um, um, so the stuff down here is what we call pantsing, um, and that's a prep. Or sorry, a lot of bits of paper today. This is your preparation time. Um, Yeah, I have that written here exactly. Preparation. This is your deep reading, and it gets narrower and narrower as you work towards finalization. There we go. And up here, you've got to do your editing. Um, so, yeah, I'll possibly explain it a lot better next time. You may want to check out Dan Harmon's Story Circle. Um, which just Google Dan Harmon Story Circle, or you may want to check out Flow, which is I think came up in about 30 or 40 years ago. I've written quite a bit about Flow on my blog on gaming and digital culture and popular culture, and that's mightygosh.blogspot.co.uk. So yeah, you should check that out. And the research triangle, that's just the first draft. Okay, where are we? One of the questions I get asked a lot when I'm writing is, um, what is this? And I love talking about it because it's a really uh, prime part of my prime tool for me as a writer. Um, some of you may already know from my blog about this a few years ago. It's called an Alpha Smart. There were four of them. This is the third, the Neo. No, second or third. Yeah, third. Yeah, there were five of them. The 2000, the 3000 Neo, the Dana, and the Neo 2. And Neo 2 are pretty much the same. The Dana is different from the rest of the range, and it has wireless capability. Um, this has no internet capability. That's it. No research holes, no emails, no Facebook. Just just go. And it's got a lovely little keypad. I don't know if you can see. Maybe if I hold it still. There we go. Um, and everything that is typed on here is auto-saved. If I was to delete a document um, by accident, I can press a few buttons and recover it. My first one of these, um, I recovered a document from America because I bought it on eBay, which is the only place you can get them in Britain. Um, so I recovered an American document from 20 years, nearly 20 years beforehand. Um, 15. Um, so these connect to, there's an infrared there, um, and they connect to the computer by way of a printer cable. I even have a printer cable here, but and I can get it, but you know what a printer cable looks like. Um, and you've got a send button, and this will just stream everything onto a notepad, OpenOffice, any Word or text document. The data is spread across 8 files of varying sizes, one being the largest, it being the smallest, and it holds about that much worth of words. That much. Sorry, yeah, and also that much. Um, Although I did not type it on the AlphaSmart, because it's really good for rough drafts only. Um, Chapter, because of the very small screen I was showing you. So there we go. You can see how it's decent size. You can get it bigger if you're a little you've trouble with your vision. So it's good for rough draft. Chapter 20, which is about half courtroom transcripts. That was quite easy to do on it. As I say, I love the keyboard. It's my favorite keyboard as well. It's too small to edit properly, so it's used for typing or writing first or second uh, drafts only. It's very light, very durable, like back when I made stuff and you could smash it against the wall or set fire to it and it was still fine. It takes 3 AA batteries. Really, there's a mains connection, but you don't need it. Nobody needs it. Regular batteries you can buy in a shop that last 6 or 9 months, and if the power goes out while you're typing, you stick new batteries in and you find the last word you typed. It's yeah, it's really wonderful. And you can get these on eBay from about in the UK about £35. If you're in America, they're much more easily available. You can buy lots. And if anybody is buying some, I'd probably like to have one extra for my retirement just for safekeeping. But you know what? I've had 2 of them. I've had them for 4 years, and I've had no bother. So, right. So as I said, gosh, 24 minutes. Right, I'm just going to tie up here. My method in writing The Watch Thief is constantly changing. This is I've come back to in a way to help me sort of break down the story. I've gone back to establishing beats. So each chapter that I have in my outline pretty much has 5 main sections to it. Chapter 21 has 3, and for that when I was working on it, I broke that down into 3 pages of 6 beats each. And and I've done very basic thumbnails. I mean, there's nothing that could even you could show to. If I showed that to a comics artist and he drew that, it would bear completely no resemblance um, to the prose that I have done, none at all. But what it does is provide a sort of an interface for my brain to digest it. So it's much more basic than, say, the pieces I showed you earlier there. Um, and I wanted the freedom to tell a chapter in this comic book form. Um, Three forms: dialogue, the immediate visual sort of form, and the caption. And I knew that was only the beginning. I knew I wanted to make use of comics and files. Um, Sorry, that's auto cue error. I knew I wanted to make use of the language that comics and films use, where they can cut away or they can do a quick flashback. And I don't really see an awful lot of that in a novel. Typically, authors stick to one scene, one scent, or the senses associated with that scene, and very rarely sort of they provide exposition, but that exposition never comes with a sensory environment of its own. Um, but I like that sort of thing. I wanted to do that, and I did that in this chapter by writing, as many comic scripts are. They're concise, they're telegram style, and I could therefore write on lots of wavelengths and expand beyond the sort of the one-dimensional form of these 6 beats. So there's your poetry. Thank you for joining me for this. It was worth the wait, I hope. I've certainly enjoyed doing it, and I hope you will keep reading and comment, tell your friends. Patreon.com/AndyLuke, Andy-Luke.com. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Luke. I'm also on Facebook quite regularly. And if I've got time, I'd be sort of expanding out to some other areas. Certainly, I've got some Pinterest stuff going, and I'd like to do a bit more of that. If you've any ideas, feedback, anything you want to talk to me about, message me in public, private, whatever suits you best. And I've been jigging about with YouTube stuff, so maybe in the months ahead I can do an interactive video. For Patreon only. But in the meantime, I'm experimenting with Facebook Live videos because I tend to get pretty good numbers, 100 to 150. So look out for those. I'm generally not sure what I'm doing. Sunday or Thursday, once a week, probably sometime between 7 and 11. And I just will talk about telly I've been watching. I'll talk a bit about The Watched Thief as well. I'll talk a bit about books, comics I've been reading, and events I'm going out to and have been to. So it's going to be much more casual than this. And for your chat to, you pop in, have a wee chat. If you want to plug anything, my Patreon subscribers, you're welcome to use my platforms as advertisements for anything you're working on, or just a chance to talk about your stuff. Just ask, please. The 6 of you are my first port of call. And if I'm not on top of it immediately, come on, give me a little push. Okay, bye for now.